travel has changed. It is now more local, then getting into neighboring, regional, and then extending into international long-haul destinations. This is how the travel is going to be emerging now. We are already seeing some green shoots of local travel happening. How can the regional tourism boards of neighboring countries synergize their strengths to ensure that they get a good chunk of this huge Indian outbound market? This collaboration should also focus on a two-way traffic, as there is a huge potential for welcoming inbound tourists from neighboring countries to India. And for tourism to prosper and grow anywhere in the world, it has to be a two-way street. Can a common body like ASEAN Tourism Forum be formed to include and collaborate with the neighboring countries of India? Will this help in fostering cross-border tourism? Let us listen to our expert panelists to discuss on the topic of this panel today and hear directly from them with their expert opinions. In the discussion, I would like to touch upon today some points which are like cooperation and partnerships are increasingly being used in the tourism sector to achieve impressive business community goals. What are the key steps and initiatives being taken by respective country in promoting cross-border tourism with neighboring countries? Which are the best practices and mechanisms for facilitating cross-border tourism? What are your experience and expectations for the development of cross-border tourism in your region? Are there any positive outcomes? What are the current issues and perceived challenges for the development of cross-border tourism in the South Asian BBIN region? And BBIN, if I have to expand, is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal initiative. It's a joint initiative started to promote interregional tourism. So to touch upon these points and to deliberate on this, I would like to now call individually one after another my esteemed panelists, and I would like to ask them the questions and get their opinion and a remark. Friends, I would like to start with introducing Mr. Javed Ahmed. He is the CEO of, or the Chief Executive Officer of Bangladesh Tourism Board. He joined it in 16th of February 2020. So relatively, you're in the hot seat, Mr. Javed, and when the pandemic has hit the tourism industry worldwide. He's a member of the Bangladesh Civil Service Administration cadre, holding the post of Additional Secretary. He is a BSc graduate and joined the Civil Service Administration from 1988. In his long professional career, he has held various important positions in district, upazila level in different capacities, and the key ministries like Home Affairs, Education, Expatriate, and the Land. Mr. Ahmed did his honors and master's degree in economics from University of Rajshahi. Mr. Ahmed, my question to you is, which are the key steps and initiatives being taken by your country in promoting cross-border tourism with neighboring countries? And what are the current issues and perceived challenges for the development of cross-border tourism in the South Asian BBIN region? Mr. Javed, please. You can unmute, Mr. Javed.
Okay, thank you very much and very good morning from Bangladesh. Okay, sir, respected moderator and my fellow panelist, Assalamu alaikum. Actually, I must thank the concerned authority for inviting me in such a important gathering, and I have got an opportunity to say something about the Bangladesh tourism industry under the COVID-19 situation. Okay, as the moderator has asked a question to me, I will come later to his specific questions. I will try to answer the questions he has put to me. Before that, let me describe a very short scenario of Bangladesh tourism here under the pandemic situation. Tourism is the world's most rising business, and many countries adopt tourism as their single source of revenue generating in the world. Bangladesh definitely is not that category country. Tourism is a vast industry where there is a direct and indirect linkage of different industries, professions, and so on. According to World Tourism and Travel Council, tourism will be #1 business in the world within 2050 and most influential factor of enriching countries' GDP. At present, the contribution of the tourism sector in our economy is 3%, nearly 3%. Okay, and due to COVID-19, the graph of rising the industry has fallen from peak to bottom. In this situation, policymakers of tourism as well as the international communities are asked to reschedule the conventional plan of implementing tourism as one of the important source of revenue generating. United Nations World Tourism Organization had addressed to the world community to emphasize on the short haul tourism, then long haul tourism. That is why India is a very important market for Bangladesh. The organization also predicts that recovery of tourism industry will take about 2 years. That is why every country should prioritize short-haul tourism. To facilitate short-haul tourism, regional collaboration and integration is crying need. Also serve this purpose, synergy and collaboration with neighboring tourism destinations will be the prime and most influential strategy for now. Regarding Bangladesh, in the context of synergy and collaboration with neighboring tourism destinations, India will come first because India is the closest neighboring country of Bangladesh. Bangladesh and India have strong. There are lots like India in the context of culture, lifestyle, food habit, clothing, and so on. So strong synergy and collaboration between these two countries can increase tourist follow. The foreign policy of Bangladesh always gives importance on maintaining a strong relationship with their countries and especially with our neighboring countries like India, Nepal, Myanmar, Maldives, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and so on. You know, Bangladesh is a lovely land of South Asia with enormous potentiality of tourism. India is the closest neighboring country of Bangladesh, and there is a historically bondage between these two countries. Now we have world-class hotel chain in different locations. Cox's Bazar, the longest sandy sea beach, the unbroken land, longest sandy sea beach, and adventurous hill tracks will welcome you with its beauty and eco-friendly resorts. The mouth-watering Bengali cuisine like shorse ilis, kebab, and so on will give you the ultimate delicacy. Their culture homogeneity that will give you home feel. Our rich culture, lifestyle, and food habit of ethnic group will glorify your experiences definitely. Mongol Shobhajatra, Holy Bath, Rash Mela in Sundarban will give you the ultimate Bengali feelings. A huge collection of traditional wares like Dhakai, Jamdani, Tangail, and crafting will give you the opportunity to make it happen. Sundarban, our forest and Beel are bestowed with special flora and fauna like Royal Bengal tigers, migratory birds, and so on that will give you fabulous experience. Synergy and collaboration between Bangladesh and other neighboring countries like India, Nepal, Myanmar, Maldives, Bhutan, Sri Lanka be the different way. Extended tour program in one of the best ways to create better synergy in the context of tourism When tourists from other countries will visit Bangladesh and neighborhood countries, we can extend this program both in Bangladesh and our neighborhood countries. Tourist circuit on the basis of tourism perspective, like heritage tour, festival tour, shopping based activities, experience the greenery, landscape, and so on can be formed. In this circuit, tour operators from neighborhood countries can arrange different tour programs. Exchanging education program between neighborhood countries can encourage the tourists follow. Initiating low-cost carrier between neighborhood countries in different destinations can be a potential source of synergy and collaboration, because low-cost carrier will encourage tourists of both countries. BBIN and BCIM are two of important source of synergy and collaboration that had reached at a level to implement. If we are able to implement these two treaty among us, connectivity through road will encourage lots of tourists to visit the neighborhood countries. Cultural exchange can be potential sources of synergy among the neighboring countries. Bangladesh has richest cultures with dance, drama, festival, song, and different national level celebration like Mongol Shubhajatra, Spring Festival, ethnic group, culture and festival, and so on. During this program, we can provide different package and similar from our neighboring countries. Ladies and gentlemen, who are the guest of our program today. Okay, just okay. I want to repeat again. Actually, the tourism, the cross-border tourism, that is very important for both the countries now. We have land border where the people can come through the land borders, through the land ports. Very recently, he had just crossed it. So we are hoping that many people from Bangladesh will be able to visit India, and we are expecting a lot of people from India. They will visit Bangladesh very shortly. One impediment we have, that people used to say that the visa regime, and really we have a very strong engagement with the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they are taking steps to ease the visa regime policy in Bangladesh. So I would like to conclude my speech here. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and share my country's branding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Javed, and I'm glad that you did mention briefly and at the very end about the visa challenges, and that definitely will be, I think it's time where all the neighboring countries should pick up the phones, and the CEOs of the tourism boards of the ministry should just be communicating on a regular daily basis, just to ensure that, somewhere short haul regional tourism gets revived, and it can be taken forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Javed. I'll come back to you again later on. Now I'd like to move on to another esteemed panelist, and that is Mr. Vinod Jutsi. As I said, he is such a popular figure in our tourism industry. He needs, even this brief introduction that I give will be limited and less. I think tourism runs in his blood, even though he is from the administrative and service cadre. We are very fortunate that, a driven, passionate gentleman like him is part of the tourism industry. He joined the Indian Administrative Service, as we call IAS in India, in 1982 from the Rajasthan cadre. He superannuated in February 2017 at the post of Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Mr. Jutsi has about 35 years of experience in central government and government of Rajasthan, with long experience and exposure in the fields of tourism, public policy and administration, management, and election and democratic governance. He has held many key positions during his tenure, namely as a Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Secretary, Tourism, Government of Rajasthan, Secretary, Civil Aviation, Government of Rajasthan. He has also held other leading positions in the tourism sector at the national level as Vice Chairman, National Medical and Wellness Tourism Board, India, Vice Chairman, National Tourism Advisory Council, India, Chairman, PATA Chapter, India, as a board member of PATA, Chairman, NCHMCT, Chairman, Board of Governors, IHM PUSA, and Vice Chairman, Board of Governors, IITTM. As I said, his introduction can be such a revelation as to what contribution he has been doing. He's also been the district collector and district magistrate of Jaipur, Alwar, Dausa, and Dholpur districts in Rajasthan. Mr. Vinod Jutse is now a consultant and advisor in travel and tourism for more than 3 years and is based in Delhi. He is also the president of New Tourism Foundation. Mr. Jutsi, warm welcome to you. And my question to you is, which are the best practices of mechanisms for facilitating cross-border tourism, and what, from your experience and expectations for the development of cross-border tourism, is in the region? Are there any positive outcomes expected? And if challenges are existing, how do we overcome them? Please, Mr. Jutsi. We can't hear you, Mr. Jutsi.
Thank you, Mr. Bakaria. See, before I come to the answers of the two questions that you have mentioned, I would like to give how important this entire region about which we are talking, whether it is BBIN, whether it is SAARC, whether it is, I would also include ASEAN, basically Asian nations. Because when we say cross-border, it doesn't mean only those which are, next to each other. Now that with Asian Highway, we are able to, or we will be able to reach Myanmar, we'll be able to reach Thailand, and beyond Thailand, Malaysia and Singapore in every way. So it's a neighboring nations. Basically, our attempt is to focus on the neighboring nations and how do we develop synergy. So first of all, I'd like to touch upon 2-3 points before I come to your issue. First is why these neighborhood countries around India and the Asian region, why it is so important to synergize. I'll give you some facts and figures. Now, Asia is growing faster in international tourist arrivals than rest of the world. Till 2018, the percentage growth rate has been 7%, as against 3%, 2 to 4% in the rest of the world, Americas and Europe. And Asia's share in terms of the arrivals has risen from 16% to 25% in the last 8 years. Similarly, in terms of the actual earnings, the international tourism receipts, it has gone to 30%. And you can imagine that most of the population, you can say that a larger share of population is in the Asian subcontinent, in the Asian continent. Now, this being, the background, the growth is more, the total arrivals are more, the total international tourism receipts are more. So it becomes, one of those very high return economic activity for all the countries which fall in the Asian region. The second very important data is, which is I think of interest to all of us, including the speakers who have come from Nepal and Bangladesh, is that intra-regional tourism in Asia, it predominates. The figures have shown that almost 79% of the movement, within Asia, is within Asia. It is intra-regional. Now, it is originating in Asia itself. People from India. India has a very high outbound. People from India go to other countries, from other countries come to India. Now, this is another second factor which is important, and that is why we need more and more synergy. Now, COVID effect has further enhanced the importance of the region and cross-border collaboration. Short distance traveling will be, as Mr. Vakaria is also mentioning, local short distances, even otherwise. If you see, Mr. Vakaria, you are being in outbound. I did some study on outbound, and I found that majority of Indians are interested in short distance traveling. And that is one of the reasons why people from India, and outbound tourism share is more than 40% from India into other Asian countries. Now, that is the third. The fourth point why we need to collaborate further is we have ease of access. There are borders, we have visa regime very liberal. We have ease of travel. We can just walk into another country by road also. We are connected by road with many countries, and very shortly with Asian Highway, as I mentioned, we are going to connect even further. So these are some of the background facts and figures on which we can further say that, we need to improve the synergy and collaboration with each other, because there is a lot of substance, there is a lot of economic activity involved. That is one. Now, second thing is that why India needs to collaborate, because I'm representing India, so I must speak. Now, why India needs to collaborate? Also because 40% of the inbound tourism comes from the neighboring Asian countries. If you say Bangladesh, today out of the top 10 countries, if you see, Bangladesh is number one. Earlier it used to be USA and then UK and all. Bangladesh over the last 2-3 years has got almost 21% of the total inbound tourism which comes into India. Similarly, Malaysia, Thailand, Nepal, Sri Lanka, all these countries. Similarly, as I had mentioned, outbound, more than 40%. In fact, the outbound from India into other countries is more. So there is a dependence between India and the neighboring countries on both inbound and outbound. So we can't live without promotion or promoting tourism in this region. There are other common areas which give us an impetus to go further. For example, cultural, social, religious similarities. You have language, you have cuisines. Mr. Javed mentioned about the cuisines. We have common religion, we have common history, we have common heritage. The people-to-people contact, and connection is better within this region rather than with any other part of the world, given the political ideology, I would say. And the tourism themes are so common. Buddhist circuit is one. Ramayana circuit between India and Sri Lanka. We try to get into this kind of collaboration to promote Ramayana circuit between India and Sri Lanka when I went to joint working group to Colombo. Ashoka circuit is another area which concerns, which has got common heritage in all the countries. And likewise, we can further develop many common areas where we can have a regional hub. So this is how India needs the other countries around the region, and other countries of this region, they need India. The third point, as you have mentioned, what is the present status and what can we further do? So coming to what India is doing, how we are moving forward to collaborate more and more, I will give you a few instances. I have been in the government, so I know. We have many platforms on which we have been promoting tourism in this region. And there are many issues. There are many issues which have been resolved. There are many issues which are still there, and I will speak about it a bit later. But SARC is one. The policy of the government of India itself, from look east to act east, is itself a big indication that India is keen to have better relations, cordial relations with the neighboring countries. Number two, even otherwise, good bilateral cooperation on all other fronts, including economic fronts, of India with other countries is setting the ball rolling to, make tourism even better. In fact, I would like to recall when I was Secretary of Tourism, even between India and China, I would say, we collaborated with each other at that point of time by making one year as visit India and another year as visit China. And this did pay a lot of dividends. BIMSTEC is another. Then Indo-ASEAN Forum, where the ministers of India and ministers of ASEAN countries, they meet every year. And SARC, I have already mentioned, we had a regional conference of SARC tourism secretaries. There is another forum of ministers of. Now, these are some of the platforms. We also have MOUs with many countries. I mentioned about Sri Lanka. Those MOUs are also very useful because it is a bilateral cooperation, not on other different matters, but specifically to promote tourism. And of course, we are promoting those common themes like Buddhist tourism. As you know, APTO is one platform which is in the non-government space. Then we have the conclave, Buddhist conclave happening every 2 years. It is sponsored by the Ministry of Tourism. Now, these are some of the action points where the ministry and the government of India is making, so even in the infrastructure area, as I had mentioned, Asian Highway, Once it is operationalized, we would see that people from Northeast especially would be able to walk into Myanmar and from Myanmar into Thailand. And as I've mentioned earlier, beyond Thailand also you can go to many other places. I would also like to give a few very specific instances where India has taken the lead, rather both the countries have taken the lead. We have a train to Bangladesh today. And even we had opened Kartarpur in Pakistan. So India and Pakistan also, by way of Kartarpur, there is a lot of movement of religious tourists, into each other's country. Now, these are some of the, steps which Indian government has taken, which Indian industry has. Now, neighborhood first policy, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, which always pays, in diplomatic relations, will also pay in the case of promoting tourism and collaborating with the neighboring countries. It applies to both India on one side and of course the other countries. So both, it is like a win-win situation for all. And if we are forming ourselves as a regional hub, it is not only going to promote intra-regional tourism, it is also going to promote inter-regional tourism. This region, including India and all the neighboring nations, can prove to be a regional hub for the rest of the world. For many themes, as I mentioned, Buddhist, as I mentioned, natural resources, in terms of heritage, in terms of religion, in terms of yoga, in terms of medical and wellness, in terms of Ayush. Now, these are things which are known in Asia, and we as a regional hub, we can attract foreigners from all over the world into this regional hub. Now, what are the issues which need to be addressed in order to further collaborate? I'll be very quick. First of all, most important is that we have to make our destination health safe. And we have to have a common regional code. I mean, in terms of traveling, very soon as other countries will also open up and international traveling will start. So we need to have very quick, visa revisits and see how flexible, how liberal we can make the new visa regime post-COVID, because it depends on the health safety of a destination. So every country will be concerned about how health safe the other destination is. So first of all, governments have to make themselves health safe. Number two, even while living with the COVID, we have to see that all health safety measures are taken and they are standardized across the region. That is important. Now, third, as always, we mention about connectivity. It is very important. We need to increase connectivity, air connectivity, road connectivity. As I mentioned, Asian Highway, we can have more roads. We can go into Central Asia also, despite the bad geographical terrain. Even Central Asia is one area which is developing and tourism is flourishing there, and they are also very keen to have relations with other countries as well. I would also like to, I've mentioned about trains. Another area where we can do a lot is cruise. India is surrounded by coastal, and then we have other countries also in Asian region. You have Thailand, you have Singapore, you have most of the countries there around it, even Indonesia. Now, cruise tourism, India has taken a lead. Already we are going to Singapore, but within the region, we can have cruises going around, and that would be another common area which we can develop. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there are many other areas where we can promote. And this collaboration, let me also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we generally think that when it comes to collaboration, it is only government to government. No, it should be government to government. It should be government to business. It should be business to business as well. And there have been instances. I remember when I went to Sri Lanka with my team as Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, and we had a joint working group in Sri Lanka. We took representatives from the airline industry of India. We took representatives from the travel trade. We took some association presidents also, and they also, the counterparts were there from Sri Lanka. So this synergy is not required only between the governments, between the tourism ministers, between the secretaries. It has to percolate down to the last level. And between India and Nepal, between the tour operators, between the hospitality sector, between the airlines, this kind of synergy and collaboration is required, Mr. Vakaria. And there are many areas. In fact, I would like to finish by saying I have some data on business tourism. Now, if you take business tourism vis-a-vis the Southeast Asia, after leisure, the next highest, the movement of tourists between India and Southeast Asia is on business tourism. So the more the economy prospers, the more there are economic relations between the neighboring nations, the more will be the MICE tourism, the more will be the business tourism. Of course, the tourism as a whole will also prosper. So it is not just the heritage, cultural, Buddhist, and other themes of tourism where we need to concentrate. Even the MICE and the business tourism is another area between the neighboring nations and India, which can synergize, which can help us to promote tourism in this region to a very large extent. So for the time being, Mr. Bakari, I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jutsi. Always such a pleasure to listen. Some great takeaways for not only the CEOs of the tourism boards and representatives from Nepal and Bangladesh, but also more importantly for the students who will be listening into it as to understand what are the parameters and how holistically you have to look at development of tourism and what kind of challenges are there, but how they can be resolved as well. I will like to touch upon one point, Mr. Jutsi, which you spoke about the business travel, and the new terminology in use since a couple of years is bleisure, which is combination of business with leisure, you know. And you rightly said so many Indians are traveling to South Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries for business. Why can't it be combined with an extension of a couple of days to enjoy a leisure activity, wherein it's a win-win for everybody concerned. I'll come back to you again in the second round for some more deliberations, Mr. Jutsi. I would like to go on to our third panelist, and that I would like to invite Shri Bikram Pandey Kaji. He is a Goodwill Ambassador of Lumbini Development Trust under Nepal's Ministry of Tourism, and also the Vice President of BBIN. As I said, it's Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal Joint Initiative. You're an ambassador of a town where it has shown the world a way of living with compassion and strength. Bikramji, my question to you would be, what are the current issues and perceived challenges for the development of cross-border tourism in the South Asian and BBIN region? And as Vice President of BBIN, how can BBIN play a very active and strategic role in promoting cross-border tourism in the region? Please.
Thank you. Well, even though I have been working partly on Buddhist sector as well as Hindu sector, I am also from adventure background, like, organizing Mount Everest expeditions and, like big marathons and, great mountain bike expeditions, those kind of things I'm involved in for a very long time. But anyway, recently I'm working also along this line of cross-border tourism because I'm also working for Lumbini. And now our airport is nearly finished, and hopefully by spring season, spring starts from March, we'll have some kind of a flight going on to Lumbini or Bhairava, you can say, but it's called Lumbini Airport at Bhairava. When we have international flights, and we're going to receive quite a few market share from international tourist hubs, so that they can travel to Lumbini, and from there they can enter India, for further journeys. Because now Lumbini and Kapilvastu is not only connected by air, going to be connected by air now. Buddhist Circuit tourist train of IRCTC has also connected Lumbini now, because they go up to a point called Nautun Hawa, from where we have only 7 kilometers to the border, and from border to Lumbini is 27 kilometers, which is not far. If we talk about big, train station and airport and downtown, which comes about 40, 50, 60 kilometers, far off distances. So that's why there is an opportunity now, emerging market for cross-border tourism. And this is already happening right from our Jutsi sir days, because they have also formed between India and Nepal. No, Jutsi sir, this is joint working group between India and Nepal. I think ये Jutsi sir के time में ही हुआ है. And every 2 years they are holding meeting between India and Nepal, and they are trying to resolve any issues are there or any difficulties are there. So and both governments are talking, and they are trying to resolve small issues by themselves, or if it is big, then they have to, deal in bilateral issues level, which they are doing. But right now, because of the corona, everything is, ground zero. Nothing is moving. We have to wait till 2021, and then everything will start moving. Even for cross-border tourism, Indian government has simplified one visa facility. When somebody lands in international airport, they also get one entry into Nepal now. They can enter to India, into the Lumbini from India, and they can return back. So if this facility continues, this will also prompt, new wave of tourists between India and Nepal as a cross-border tourism. Maybe Ravi Bhai also knows about it. They have given this facility now, which is not operating now because there is no tourist movement, but it is going to, do it again, because once the corona issue is over, then the tourist movement will start to run, and they can enter India from Lumbini, as well as they can re-enter, India after they visit Lumbini from India. So this is also going to facilitate cross-border tourism between India and Nepal. And the same kind of rule, if they could adopt between Bangladesh and India, I don't know what are the border issues between Bangladesh and India. So if they can also have this kind of facilities, and it is sure that cross-border tourism will increase multifold for the Westerners also. Now BBIN also can play a role, but recently, I have also taken a place there very recently, but tourism sector is looked after by Mr. Hakim. We have another person there, and Mr. Javed must be knowing him. So he is making, all these, rules by rules and formation of committees, and Mr. Hakim will be dealing with it, and we have been giving him a lot of support and feedback and input. So hopefully it will happen, very soon through BBIN and through our joint working committee between India and Nepal. So this cross-border tourism has to happen because this is the future market, and because there is a Buddhist market as well as Hindu market also. Like people can come to Banaras from all over the world, and from Banaras they can fly into Kathmandu, and they can do kind of a Hindu circuit, between India and Nepal. Like they can travel by overland from Banaras, Gorakhpur, they can enter Nepal, and they can also visit Lumbini, they can visit Kapilvastu, and from there they can go to Pokhara, they can go to Muktinath, and they come back, then they can also go to Gorkha, which is the hermitage, mountain hermitage of Baba Gorakhnath in the mountain. Like Kailash is the hermitage of Lord Shiva, we have a place, a hill called Gorkha, which is the mountain, Himalayan hermitage of Baba Gorakhnath. That is what it is believed to be. So from there they go to Kathmandu, they visit Pashupatinath. So all these attractions are there, all these appeals are there, and people are doing it even in the past, and they will do multifold in future also. So this is all happening, and right now because of the corona it is all stopped, and in future is going to happen again, because Nepal is also quick sort out holiday places. Now we have many, not many, couple of airports, regional airports coming into operation, like Bodh Gaya, Varanasi, Lucknow, and they are also trying to operate flights to Pokhara now, because Pokhara airport has also been extended. So as you know, Pokhara is also known as Kashmir of Himalaya or Kashmir of Nepal. So there is a lot of attraction and a lot of appeal. People want to go to Pokhara. Those who go to Kathmandu, they want to go to Pokhara. I'm sure Mr. Mahendra must have visited Pokhara many times. It is like an open art gallery, The mountains and the plains are just 35 kilometers away as the crow flies. When you go to Kashmir and Leh Ladakh, the mountains are far away. But when you go to Pokhara, from the standpoint from where you are standing, the mountains are only 35 kilometers away at the crow flies. So we have a fantastic, very dramatic landscapes. We have Mount Everest there. We have 8 highest mountains in the world in the Himalayan belt. Now, you will be surprised to know there has been a lot of craze now to climb Mount Everest for the Indians. The Indians are going 200, 300 people on the Tibetan side to climb Mount Everest from Tibet side, and on the Nepal side. So this is also increasing a lot of, whether we can call it intra-regional or, whatever, cross-border tourism, whatever you want to say. But these movements are increasing all the time. And now when our Lumini airport is open, we are expecting some flights, direct flights from China also. And recently, after Xi Jinping visited China, India, he also came to Nepal, and he also told the Nepalese people that in China, this Buddhism is coming up, as a national, in-country religion, and these are your future tourists. So Chinese tourists, are also potential future market for Nepal as well as for India. And if we can sort out this little bit of visa thing, without even going to India first, land at the international airport and get the e-visa, if one more, visa facility could be organized where they could collect the visa from Indian Embassy Kathmandu, it will be fantastic. People don't have time. In China also, or in big countries, to get a visa and go to the, city or capital to collect the visa takes a lot of money, a lot of time. But these days, everything has gone in online, like they apply for e-visa. If there could be a system in future, which we will raise in our next joint working committee group, or in APTO meeting, or in BBIN meeting, if it could be simplified like e-visa, they could apply first 1 month before, 2 months before, and they could collect the visa from Kathmandu Embassy. That would be fantastic. That is another future. These days, as you know, people have money, but they don't have time. And they don't want to, wait for visa for a long time. So this is what is the future we'll have to sort out through BBIN, as well as APTO, or as well as our joint working committee. And now between India and Nepal, we are also talking about selling, the cross packages, like, Nepalese agents covering the Indian destination in our brochure and in our website. In the same way, the Indian tour operators covering the Nepalese destination in their packages and website. It is already happening for a long time, but this kind of packages are very short holidays. Like for Buddhist sector, if you talk about that, they come to, overland, they come to Lumini for 1 night or maximum 2 nights. And if we talk about other packages, they fly to Kathmandu, they stay 3 nights, 4 days, and they go back. But if we also include 1 or 2 of, 5, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 programs between India and Nepal, like all Nepalese agents include the Indian packages into our system, and all Indian agents also start to include Nepalese, packages into their system. This could also bring good result. Maybe we will have 10 to 15% growth market, because Nepalese government is also spending hell a lot of money for marketing. Indian government is also spending hell a lot of money for marketing. And if this kind of joint packaging and marketing could be done, I'm sure there will be result. In the similar context, we can also include Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, through BBIN, or Bhutan. And so that way we can expand the market. And this I call is a real synergy. So which gives immediate result as well as immediate benefit to the people, which people can feel and which people can see. Otherwise, sometimes when we are talking only about projects and plannings, sometimes the result is long way wait, and people are a little bit, frustrated. But these things which are already going on and already running, if we could do it a little efficiently and more smartly, we can bring the result immediately. And somebody was telling me in India that most of their packages, the best-selling packages in India is India-Nepal. So somebody was telling me that maybe 25%, of the successful Indian package, India-Nepal or India-Bhutan, India-Bangladesh, whatever, the best-selling package is India-Nepal. That's what they say. So 25% of the best-selling packages of the Indian operators already made up by the Nepalese destination. So if this could be researched more, explored more, I'm sure we can bring, immediate results, and we can bring immediate results, immediate benefit, and say, kamai bhi hogi aur dosti bhi jamegi. I think this is a very good future for all our, bordering nations, whether we call it cross-border tourism or we call it, adventure tourism, or abhi Ruchi Saab bol rahe the business tourism or sports tourism. I think there is a big future. We just have to sit down. We have to work it out. We have to trim it. We have to expand it, or we have to trim it, and take it to the international market. We can bring very good result for all our nations surrounding us. Thank you. This is all I have to say.
Thank you, Bikramji, and very interesting. After Mr. Jutse's remarks, he did mention about two very interesting things. One was the business traffic that should be exploited, and I agree to it. Cruise tourism, you know, Gujarat itself, for example, my state has 1,600 kilometers of coastal line, and India has such a vast coastal line and connecting neighboring countries. So in your remarks, you mentioned about two very interesting aspects of tourism: religious tourism as well as adventure tourism. And I think post COVID going forward, people will prefer to be visiting places more related to adventure tourism, where it's out in the open and not too crowded. You know, you can enjoy the nature. People have become very mindful of appreciating nature, being responsible, and understanding what is sustainability. So I think there are some very interesting takeaways that are coming through in the discussion. I would like now to move on to our fourth panelist, and that's Mr. Ravi Bankar. Mr. Ravi Bankar is a founder and principal consultant of Genesis Leisure Consulting. He has been associated with the tourism and hospitality industry for more than about 25 years. His expertise lies in policy review, strategic planning, project management, and business development. Genesis Leisure Consulting, his company, is a research and strategy consulting firm based in Mumbai and also in Nagpur, India, and provides an integrated approach to problem solving to assist the clients in developing strategies, enabling management of continuous changes occurring in the tourism industry through an array of services that includes strategy reviews, market research, competitive assessments, and economic impact studies. This is a very interesting contribution that his expertise is bringing, you know, wherein evaluating the pros and the cons and what are the way forward, how it can be utilized, or what are the challenge areas, bring out a strategy and present it to a regional tourism board, a state tourism board, or a country-based tourism boards, which can then culminate into a good commercial activity. Mr. Ravi, most welcome. And my question to you would be, cooperation and partnerships are increasingly being used in tourism sector to achieve impressive business and community goals. How do you foresee this to foster and grow post the pandemic, and when the new normal starts? And what will be your roadmap or your deliberation or your expert opinion for building such partnerships? Thank you. Mr. Ravi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bakaria. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear
yes,
me,
it's
Mr.
clear.
Bakaria?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
clear, sir.
Thank you, a New Tourism Foundation, for giving me this opportunity. The recent report published by the World Bank talks about heavy losses in the tourism sector of South Asia. They have estimated about more than 10 million job losses in the tourism sector of South Asia, as well as almost $52 billion loss in the GDP of these countries. And the tourism sector has almost contracted to 80% of its potential in these 7 to 8 months. So we see a lot of despair, we see a lot of pessimism, but there are green shoots. Everybody is talking about green shoots. And these green shoots are the previous achievements in the tourism sector of South Asia pertaining to India. And I just would like to take recourse to a slide which will talk about can you see the slide actually?
No.
Mr. Bakaria?
No, not yet. We can't see a slide.
Okay.
Maybe you'll have an option of share the screen and you could click on that.
Can you see now?
No. Yes.
Can you see now?
Yeah, we can see that now.
Okay. If you look at the current tourism trends in the South Asian region pertaining to India, now we see this huge potential of uh, tourism in India as well as the neighboring countries. Now, the number of outbound tourists in 2018 were 26.30, which have increased to almost 27 million in 2019-20. The provisional figures are there. And foreign tourist arrivals almost touch 11 millions as per the provisional figures. We see the foreign tourist arrivals from neighboring countries, the BVI countries, and also from Myanmar. Bangladesh is the top source market for India, almost 21.37 percentage share of total FTAs in India, followed by Sri Lanka, Nepal, Maldives, Myanmar, and Bhutan. If we look at the distribution of nationality-wise FTAs in India by mode of travel, in case of Bangladesh, almost 68.3% travelers used the road transport to travel to India. It means that the mode of traveling or the road trip is more popular in case of travelers from Bangladesh than air. Also Nepal, we see a lot of travelers from, especially the Buddhist pilgrims, travel to India or vice versa by road. There's a border called Sonoli, which acts as a integrated check post between Nepal and India, and almost 300,000 travelers enter through that border to Nepal, Lumbini. Also Bhutan, we see almost there are about 230,000 Indian travelers to Bhutan, which comprise of almost 80% of the total international tourist arrivals in Bhutan. Similarly, Maldives is also picking up from the earlier 70,000, now this in 2018, 83,000. Even Myanmar can be now considered as a South Asian country because of the development of the Asian Highway #1, which connects India to Myanmar and Thailand through Manipur. So Myanmar is also showing increased arrivals of tourists to India. Similarly, the Indian travelers also visiting the neighboring countries in large numbers. In fact, India is considered one of the top 5 source markets for Sri Lanka, Nepal, Maldives, and Bangladesh. Of course, we don't have figures of Bangladesh, but we believe that India is also a large source market for BBI countries. Now there are certain issues I would like to talk about. For example, the issue of BBI and motor vehicles agreement. Now, this agreement is signed by all the 3 BBI countries, but not by Bhutan, because Bhutan is very cautious in terms of signing this agreement. It believes that if it signs the agreement, then there will be an influx of tourists to the country, and it will be difficult to control over tourism because they follow those sustainable tourism guidelines. And that is the reason they have now started levying the what we call it entry tax or the sustainable tax to the residents of India, Maldives, and Bhutan and Bangladesh from 2018 onwards to primarily to curb the arrivals from these countries to Bhutan, and also to preserve their goals of sustainability. Now, the Asian Highway connectivity will provide a lot of opportunities for increased number of travelers opting to cross the border by road. So there need to be a policy of immigration, the policy of visa facilitation, and also the facilitation of tourists from the border checkposts to the destinations targeted by the tour operators. So we need a cooperation, not in terms of stakeholders, but also cooperation in terms of institutional arrangement between tourism authorities of neighboring countries by the intergovernmental collaboration and alliances. For example, India has signed a strategic alliance with Thailand for promoting Buddhist tourism. So, so, so I believe that the initiative of these strategic alliance will lead to streamlining procedures and processes of cross-border tourism. The opportunity for BBN countries to integrate with the larger ASEAN market. If this MVA, the motor vehicles agreement is formalized, then BBN sub-region will be more seamlessly integrated with the ASEAN market. And of course, the Asian highways will play a big role in connecting India and the BBN countries to Southeast Asian markets. I would also like to talk about I would also like to talk about the
We can't hear you, Mr. Ravi. Mr. Ravi?
Can you be?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We lost you in between. Yes, screen sharing is stopped.
Yeah. I would also like to talk about certain mechanisms. I would like to talk about certain mechanisms. For example,
Mr. Ravi, you could start
certain
the
initiative.
video. We can't see you on the screen. You could start the video, please. Okay. Yeah. Yeah,
Can you
that's
see
fine.
me now?
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine.
We can take some initiatives. First of all, for example, we can create a framework of cross-border tourism, which will enable the participation of all stakeholders. Now, this needs a kind of a working group or a tourism setting up of tourism promotion council between the two neighboring countries. This particular council will identify the tourist destinations which are easily accessible to the tourist. For example, uh, between India and Nepal, they need to create tourism clusters which will comprise of smaller tourism destinations, and they need to create a kind of a connectivity and itinerary which will be thematic. For example, there are a lot of national parks and tiger sanctuaries are in the border areas of India and Nepal, which can be promoted in the thematic itinerary. So that the cross-border tourism not only talks about traveling from one place to another, but it will provide a thematic itinerary in terms of diversity of products and experiences. Second is we should enhance the efficiency of marketing. We need to create a mechanism of joint marketing and creative promotions between two countries, uh, which are very important because all these regional products need to be integrated into a cohesive, unified cross-border tourism brand, which is very important because the branding of regional tourism needs to be looked into, because regional tourism brand can be promoted externally also to other source countries and other regions, which can attract tourists from far off places. And also it also gives the advantage of strong marketing networks and marketing platforms. So these are the issues I think the cross-border tourism strategy needs to be inculcated. And the last is how we improve the efficiency of management system, tourism management system. For example, we need joint tourism information systems, which will share information about the transport availability, which shares information about the accessibility to the destinations, the accommodation available, the local transport availability of local transport, the availability of tourism suppliers, and other value chains. So integration of value chains in the regional tourism, cross-border tourism is also a very important aspect. So these four pillars, for example, uh, the mechanism of cooperation. The second is the shift of policy from traditional marketing to a joint marketing or cross-border marketing. Third is the development of tourism clusters, regional clusters, which comprise of destinations from both the sides. And the last is the enhancement and the increase in the efficiency of tourism management systems. So these four pillars can really work in consolidating uh, the mechanism of cross-border tourism, not between not only but between two countries, but we can also include the other countries which are in the neighborhood. For example, in Southeast Asia, we have seen a lot of tourism alliances between three countries, actually, instead of two. So we call them tourism triangles. For example, we have tourism triangles between Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia, tourism triangles between Thailand, Indonesia, and Cambodia. Then there is a tourism triangle between Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. Then Myanmar is also joined recently with Thailand in promoting cross-border tourism. But the biggest initiative is the Greater Mekong region, which is integrating all these countries of Southeast Asia with China. So the province of China, which is adjoining the Southeast Asia, is also a part of this Greater Mekong initiative. And there are air travel agreements between these countries. There are stakeholder agreements, and there is a joint marketing and promotion of various destinations in Greater Mekong sub-region. So all these initiatives, we need to take it. For example, we talk about a pandemic. I remember in 2014 in Africa, there were some natural disasters and calamities, and three countries joined hands together, that is Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, to create a free travel zone between the three countries. And they issued a visa called East Africa Tourist Visa in 2014 and permitted the travelers to travel these three countries for 90 days. So these are the initiatives I think we have to look into to promote cross-border tourism in BBN countries and beyond it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. Very interesting. As a professional, and bringing your expertise of understanding the pain areas or the pain points and trying to find a solution. I'm sure there are a lot of good takeaways in what you. I like one particular thing is the joint communication, which is extremely very critical now more than ever, because everybody is going to be so mindful and conscious of the health protocols, the sanitization, safety precaution measures being taken. And in this, a joint communication with a standard uniform protocol procedure will be very, very, very useful. Thank you. I would like to now invite Dr. Mariam Shakila, who has joined in with our panel as well. Welcome, ma'am, and a warm welcome to you. Can you hear me? Dr. Mariam? Dr. Mariam, please, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Okay. Good. Warm welcome to you on the panel, and we are glad you could join in us. And we would like to have your expert opinion. Dr. Mariam Shakila, she is a former cabinet minister from the Republic of Maldives. She is also the honorary consul of Belgium in Maldives at present. She is the CEO of SIMDI Group, a businesswoman and leading one of the most premium distribution companies in Maldives. SIMDI holds exclusively broad range of brands of FMCG products, liquor products, resortware, IT products, health, and whatnot. Whatever you can think of, I think SIMDI Group has got a hand in it, and they're involved in it. And as she, as a CEO, is leading this group forward. She is also the chairperson for Advisory Panel for Executive Education and MBA, Curtin University of Australia. And she is also the advisory board member for School of Management, Curtin University, and chairperson of AWA, WACAM, and the Dives Institute in Maldives. Dr. Mariam, a warm welcome. As I told you, we have had the opportunity of listening to the gentleman first. We will have the last word from the lady this time. And my question to you, Doctor, would be, which are the key steps and initiatives being taken by Maldives in promoting cross-border tourism with neighboring countries? And what are the current issues and perceived challenges for the development of cross-border tourism in the South Asian BBI region? And you, with your experience both in the administrative side of the government and now being a private entrepreneur, how would you evaluate it, and what are your takeaways from this, and what would be your expert opinion, ma'am? Please.
Well, I have very short time, and then also I was thinking I didn't know that I was going to be in this panel because I actually didn't see the emails. There was a confusion with the dates and all that, but then from top of my head, I could say that, from the Maldives, in the Maldives, what they are looking basically is the COVID-19 as a foremost a humanitarian crisis, as you know, Maldives is almost 100% dependent on tourism. So obviously, it is their best interest to make sure that the country's tourism is open. This means to the whole world, not only for the region as well. But I think, to be honest, we can form more synergies with the region if the authorities concerned come to an agreement and then partner together. Because
just a moment, please. Could you put your video on? We can't see you.
Please switch on the video.
Can you put the video on, please? We can't see you on the screen.
Hello?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, managing the COVID-19 pandemic and then also opening the tourism requires a whole of society and a whole of government approach, and it should be led by the government itself. So that is what the government is doing. The safety comes first. So what the Maldivian government and then also the private sector, resort operators are trying to do is basically create to create confidence for the travelers, and that obviously means creating a safety to create safe travels, safe tourism. And then so that is what the government is targeting on, to ensure the travelers. But then again, when you do all that, although the Maldivian government or even India or even Pakistan or even any one of our countries creates that kind of synergy, unless the airline industry and unless all the other industries come together, we will not be able to actually promote tourism. At the same time, it is also what we also have to remember is there are challenges in each one of our countries, individual countries, whereby there are restrictions that are imposed in all these countries. And then so even if the Maldives tourism, for example, opens up, unless the borders are opened in the rest of the countries, then there cannot be a regional tourism movement. So in the way that I'm thinking, and the way the Maldivian government is also thinking, and the way that all of us are thinking is, you know, if we want to promote regional tourism, then we obviously have to come to an understanding together, and then create probably a safety bubble among the region. So this means we have to come up with a standard safety measures, confidence building measures among us. That would actually create a regional movement. At the moment from India, we do have travelers, but then a lot of other countries, we are not getting any travelers. Like for example, Sri Lanka, I know that the borders are closed. So although Maldives has opened its borders, we are still restricted with what we could do. So the Maldivian government at the moment is also promoting, came up with a lot of promotions whereby they are actually projecting Maldives as a safe destination. And then that is their main target at the moment, to make sure, and then also giving special insurance programs, etc. So if we want to promote regional tourism, my suggestion is, within the short period that I have, my suggestion is let us all as a region sit together. As a region, all our operators, because governments alone cannot actually work on this. The private sector has to come hand in hand, because most of the tourism is handled by the private sector. So we all have to come together to come to an understanding, and then have common goals, and then common strategies to work together, so that we all build confidence among the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Very important, and I would like to acknowledge the Indian government and the Maldivian government for creating the air bubble and opening up the borders, allowing and facilitating travel of Indian tourists who are raring to get out of their homes, having been cooped up for 6 months, to travel out to a foreign locale. And Maldives is the first country where it's beginning. And we, at our end in the office, we also seeing some bookings already coming through for the months of October end and November. So very happy. And this is how regional tourism will have to be developed. And you are very right. The time is now more than ever now that you have to sit together, pick up the phones, keep the communication lines open, and just come to some kind of an regional agreement, which will help in everybody getting a share of the tourism pie, and not a particular country or two countries only. How much of time do we have, ma'am? Are you on the panel with us for some more time?
Yes, I can be. I also would like to say that, you know, recently we did, a group of us together came up with a policy paper. Basically to promote regional tourism, as well as tourism from elsewhere, from Europe, etc. And then what we suggested and what we proposed basically is, from the moment the tourist leaves, whether it is from India or Sri Lanka or whatever, measures need to be taken for safe arrival to the from the source market to the destination market. And so this means from the time they start booking the travel, from the travel agency itself, there has to be measures that needs to be taken. For example, getting the pre-COVID tests and etc., etc., and then coming to the airport, also implementing all those things. India is one of the countries which has got the brains for digital transformation. India has the technology, the know-how, the brains, and then what I seriously feel is the whole region, basically, when you compare to the rest of the world, has got the most smartest brains. Because even if you look at Harvard or wherever in the world you look, you know, the people who drive these organizations are basically our people, you know, coming from us. So we do have the technology to come in, and then I think, you know, we will never be able to manage proper tourism or anything without actually technology coming into the picture. So there are a lot of technology that is being used, like for example, China and elsewhere, in Russia and elsewhere, where they are monitoring people and then movement, so that contact tracing and all that will be enhanced. So what we have suggested is, like, pre-arrival PCR results to be made compulsory, and rapid testing at airport, and pre-departure PCR testing within close proximity of the resorts, and tourism movement cycle needs to be monitored, and movement control measures to and from the resorts in local traffic. Like for example, in a country like Maldives, we are talking of boat transfers in many cases, or flight transfers. So all these things need to be, and also what we suggested is basically to establish isolation procedures at all the resorts, in all the resorts, so that just in case something were to happen, then at least it can be addressed. So that will build confidence for the traveler. What we also suggested was, like, in Maldives, the resorts are in clusters in many cases. Not burdening the government, but then basically asking the private sector to everybody put in the basket a certain sum of money, and then create a state-of-the-art facility. If in case within that cluster something happens, then at least it can be addressed immediately. So these are some of the suggestions that we suggested. That each resort, we also said that each resort should have an in-house health clinic with the responsibility of daily monitoring of guests and staff for symptoms of COVID, so that we actually create that safety atmosphere. So basically, if you ask me, what is Maldives doing? Concentrating on creating a safety net, not only within the country, but also for the whole region, and then also for the whole world, so that we get tourism. Because without tourism, because at the moment our whole country is dependent on tourism, sadly. But then that also has opened up our eyes to the vulnerability of depending on only just one industry, basically. And then so I'm sure the government is looking at other ways of probably just developing other industries. And then I'm sure like India is already helping us, and then a lot of other countries, we need help. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Yes, and very important that you mentioned that everybody will have to be mindful of the health protocols and be more conscious, and it starts from an individual self. If we start putting the basics into practice, I'm sure a lot of things could be managed. And as all of us know, it's not everything that the government has to do. Somewhere it will have to be a partnership that will have to be built upon between the government and the stakeholders and the people as well. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I would like to, Dr. Bikram had to, Mr. Bikram had to leave because he had another webinar joining in, but I'll quickly now come to the last end of our panel discussion. I will want a closing remark for from each panelist. I personally believe the C word 2020 year has been a very negative word, C word. Okay. But to my mind, there is a C word, the 4 C's which are driving the tourism industry worldwide. That's connectivity, consular, communication, and collaboration. Without this, no tourism will develop, whether it's regional, national, long haul, international, whatever. So, Mr. Jutsi, coming to you for your closing remarks. And also, you did touch upon a very interesting figure of 79% of intra-regional travel that's existing, and that's a huge percentage. I know within Asian community, the Asians are traveling a lot within each other country. But you did mention about a common regional code. Some light on that will be a very interesting thing, because I think, and like Dr. Mariam said, the time is now to pick up the phones with the tourism authorities of different regional borders and put up a joint common program to promote tourism. Mr. Jutsi, please.
Yeah. See, to be specific, when I said common regional code, it was primarily because, you see, India and the region, I'm talking of Asia region, SAARC and ASEAN and BBI and all inclusive, we have a special relation. You know, we have many platforms. We are dependent on each other. Many are dependent on India, and so is India dependent on others. Now, in order to, and of course, the point about opening this air bubble arrangement is again one of the illustrations in that respect, that it's like a common code. Like you, India and Maldives have got into a common arrangement. Similarly, other 12 countries, but incidentally, in this region, only Maldives have been covered. So this common code is like how India and Maldives, and similarly how India and other Asian countries can have a arrangement of air bubble. It can extend to road arrangements. It can, you know, go into e-visa arrangement also. Bangladesh still doesn't have e-visa facility at the moment. And keeping COVID in mind, we could always, you know, have something different from the international code. That is what I meant. And idea, basically, the objective would be to facilitate. So this is one very important point, which I think India and other nations can jointly sit and decide. It could be a common regional code. It could be between the two countries also. It could be intra-country code. Like even the air bubble arrangement may not be a common arrangement with all the countries. I do not share the, I don't have the document as to what exactly is the arrangement, but I'm sure when we went with Qatar, we went with Afghanistan, the arrangements and specifics will be different. When with Maldives, it may be different. Similarly, with those nations where we border, the road is also important. Similarly for cruising. So all these things can be factored, you know, on a regional basis, on country to country basis. And since we are dependent on each other, we have more than 40% of inbound, outbound. I think it will be easier for us, for these countries to come out with something which facilitates tourism in the post-COVID region. And second point, which you had mentioned earlier also about leisure. In fact, to be precise, in SAARC and Southeast Asia, I had done some study. Both in SAARC and Southeast Asia, the leisure, recreation and business profession, they constitute 83% of the total travelers. And same number is for Southeast Asia. The only difference is leisure and recreation in SAARC is about 75% and business profession is 8%. Whereas in Southeast Asia, leisure is 69 and business is 14%. So combinedly, so 83% in this concept of leisure. I mean, I'm a very strong advocate of leisure. I mean, I had done a lot of things in Sanchi Stupa, near Sanchi, you know, when we had Swadesh Darshan meeting with government of Madhya Pradesh, I told them, you come out with a project of a convention center next to Sanchi. Similarly, in Bodh Gaya, there is a convention center which is coming up with about 70 to 80 crores of investment. Same thing I told in Tirupati, government of Andhra, that people come for religious tourism to Tirupati. Why can't we have a convention center? Why can't we merge business with religion tourism and with other aspects of tourism? So I'm a strong contender of leisure, and this is one very important way to go forward. COVID or no COVID, I mean, this concept is everlasting. It is universal, that people for mice, if they go to a place of tourist importance, it will certainly have a synergy with each other. It will have a symbiotic effect. You go, you want to see a place and you are going on a business tour, so you combine both the things. This is how I think business with travel is the best option. Even I remember in government, when we used to travel, it was such a good opportunity that when you go on official meeting to some place within India also, you spend some time. In fact, the organizations and the organizers of the conference also, if you see internationally, nationally, they keep half a day for sightseeing. That is deliberate. So idea of leisure, I think I totally support, and this could pave way for further cooperation and synergy within this region also.
Thank you, Mr. Vinod Jutsi. Really very interesting takes. And as I said, it's always very important to understand the expert opinions coming out from the expert panel here. Mr. Ravi, you had a very interesting presentation of some facts and figures, and I was myself quite surprised to see that Bangladesh is sending about 21% of foreign
Yes.
Indian tourists coming
It is
into
a number one. It is a number one destination source
from the
market
region.
for India.
But against
Yeah.
that, Indians going to Bangladesh is only 80,000 Indians.
Yeah, 80,000. That's all.
You know?
Actually.
Whereas Bangladesh is constituting a huge manufacturing hub in the region, you know, and there is a
That's
lot
right.
of trade happening between
Yeah.
Indian. I know of so many of our clients who are traveling to Bangladesh regularly, who are dealing in textiles, who are dealing in dyes and chemicals. And, you know, so there is a huge mismatch of which is very relevant, you know, and that's why I think regional tourism will play a very important role. And you did mention about creating regional clusters and having a joint communication. Your closing remark, please, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you very much. I would like to have a perspective on how to build a strong mechanism for cross-border tourism. Now, the number one is we have to inculcate this sense of cooperation and collaboration instead of competition. Now, we have to forget this term of competition for another 2 years now. We should not compete for a tourist between countries now. So, this aspect of understanding that we need to increase or enhance the competitive advantage of the region, not of the country. So the region comes first, then the country. So then we have to be actors in that region, not the competitors and the facilitators. The second is by working together, by creating this joint mechanism or joint tourism promotion councils or working groups at the government levels, there will be cost optimization. You know, the countries will share cost and risks. Third is we should also think about bringing some kind of harmony or harmonization of standards of accommodation, standards of tour operations, and also the tariffs. There has to be a parity in tariffs between countries in this scenario, because the tourist who's spending 3,000 rupees in India should have the similar facilities at a destination in Nepal or Bangladesh or Maldives. So there'll be some kind of standardization in terms of tariffs and also the facilities. The third is what this collaboration or cooperation will bring. It will bring greater access to larger markets. You know, the markets which are not yet explored by countries like Maldives can also get tourists from other markets which can be targeted, and it will also result in better distribution channels, because the marketing platforms will become more stronger. There'll be joint marketing efforts by both the countries, and all stakeholders will be participating in this scenario. Then it will also lead to transfer of knowledge and expertise. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, Haria, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
This will also lead to transfer of knowledge and expertise, and it will also bring innovation. Innovation in terms of people understand which tourists can be targeted, which tourists bring a kind of economic value to the destination. So these statistics and data can be shared between countries, actually, between the tourism authorities of countries. So that we don't waste our efforts in targeting unviable markets. So we are focused and targeted.
Sure.
Then it will also lead to increased penetration of the current markets,
Sure.
because large number of tourists will start traveling. There will be a movement of tourism. So there will be a kind of triggering effect in the markets, which will lead to increased number of travelers to the region. And also, we need to understand that now we have to adopt the sustainable tourism development measures. We cannot, every time, we cannot just remember the figures, because all these figures are leading to over-tourism.
Correct.
Now we have to go beyond these figures, and we have to talk about sustainability and responsible tourism. A destination which receives 10 million tourists I think this particular notion we have to forget now, and we have to think in terms of providing an experience-based or what we call it experiential tourism criteria. So these are some of the ideas I think we need to understand, and we need to aspire. We cannot, of course, achieve it, but we need to aspire to the concept of single tourist destination in the region. So this single tourist destination, for example, a BBN tourist destination can be a winner if the governments come together, the stakeholders come together, and the BBN countries can even float, or can this idea of BBN single visa for 90 days or for 100 days, so that the travelers from all these four countries can travel from one country to another country more freely. Then we need to understand the political issues. We need to understand the social, cultural, and economic differences. So these, I think, the governmental level or the stakeholder levels, even the local governments, the frontier governments on the borders, they can really address these issues in terms of the attribute or the attitudes of locals to the tourist arriving from across the border. So some of these issues I think are very important. And last but not least, I think the traditional way of looking into destination is over now. We have to really create a kind of the concept of economic value to destination, and that economic value will come only when there'll be enhanced tourist spending, there'll be enhanced activities in terms of diversity of attractions, enhancement of product and differentiation. For example, I talked about this frontier region between India and Nepal, which has got great ecological resources. So ecotourism, adventure tourism, cultural tourism, really they can combine the diversity of attractions in this region. And we have to give a kind of a high quality experience rather than facilities. So now we have to move on to this notion of experiences or experiential travel. So from traditional traveling to experiential travel, I think we need to adopt this particular notion, and we have to work together in realizing this notion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. Very interesting. One takeaway for me is your sentence of, you become the actor and not a competitor, and that is how we will have to move forward. Collaboration, again, a C word, is going to be the way forward. And incidentally, our topic is also about collaboration with the regional tourism, Dr. Mariam, Maldives is a very unique ecological destination. As much as we want more tourists to come, we also need to be sensitive about maintaining the balance so that it remains good for a very long period of time. In such a situation, when tourism is starting, there is from India there is a huge market for the MICE travel, as well as the big fat Indian weddings. And going forward, the way I see it is, people will be more conscious of traveling to places where they do not have to move around a lot, where they do not have to hop from one city to another city, come in contact with a lot of other people, a lot of transport options, a lot of attractions, etc., etc. In such a situation, Maldives is sitting at a place where it can take great advantage of this. And you did mention about creating a joint force with the resorts to have a medical facility, and that is very critical. How do you foresee and how are you proposing to communicate these advantages so that when we as tour operators are wanting to promote it, we are mindful and aware and we can guide our clients in that manner? Dr. Mariam.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, our Maldivian tourism market in MMPRC is doing a lot of work along those lines. As you know, unlike the rest of the region, we are very resource poor. So the only resource we have is sun, sand, and beach. And then we play it to the best of our ability. And that obviously means creating that safety environment over there. And Maldives is also, because of its geographical nature, we are like one island, one resort kind of set up. And so this means, like, if the resorts themselves individually take precautions as per the ones that I mentioned earlier, then we are creating that safe environment. Because if also the region has got medical facility that is actually supported by the private, the cluster of tourist resorts, then we are also giving confidence to, whether it is for MICE or for weddings or whatever it is, when they come, they know that they are in a safe environment. They also know that like, although for example, there are a lot of cases in the capital island or in the other villages, the total setup of the Maldives is that, we can live there, or we can enjoy our holiday without basically mixing with the local communities. And then, so this means it's naturally that that environment is created without us putting much efforts. And obviously, MICE is an area that has not been tapped that much by the Maldives. But then there is area that we are actually, I'm sure the whole country is actually targeting, and there are people who are actually creating this kind of conference facilities and meeting facilities within the resorts itself. So Maldives will not survive, or Maldives will not be Maldives if we do not take care of our environment. So obviously, the way that Maldives tourism is developed, or the way the government actually addresses the development of the resorts, is on a sustainable platform, on a sustainable manner, thinking about the sustainability, of course. But then again, there are cases where development actually overrides the environmental factors in some cases, it's a real how shall I say, there's a fine balance over there. But then again, I must say that Maldives has managed it well, although there has been lapses here and there. But I suppose every country, every government makes mistakes, and then that happens. But actually, my last comment would be, governments cannot achieve anything alone. Basically, this is what I'm stressing again. They need the support of the public to facilitate the smooth progress. And failure to accomplish the goals of eradicating the virus from our community and facilitating travel and tourism within our region, the loss will not only be the governments, it will be the collective loss. And hence, we need to bypass the politics of politics and uphold national interest above our personal interests and agendas, and work towards the goals irrespective of what the government does or does not. And it serves no purpose for our private sector to sit and play the blame game on anyone, because that is what a lot you can hear all the time. The government did not do this government did this, and this government is not doing it. I think that game has to stop. We all need to individually do our part on a personal level, as businesses and as community, and let us all let all this over, and then those interested in playing the blame game and politics start their agendas. Let's just go beyond that. And then, even as a region, I don't have to say that, even regionally we have politics, and terrible politics, without actually taking advantage of our strengths. Look at EU, for example. EU has like 1% of what we have within our region. And yet there have been many cases whereby the politics or whatever different agendas stop us from actually taking advantage of that, capitalizing on those opportunities, and then becoming even stronger than EU. So let's move beyond that. Let's work together. Let's create the safety bubble that is required within the region, and then work together. I think most of the eminent speakers over here has mentioned a lot of things that we could do in order to create this. Let's let this forum not be a forum whereby we just talk and stop at that.
Absolutely.
Let's take actions. Let's take, there are actionable actions that can be taken. And let's all, as a group, as a region, let us follow through. Most of the conferences, most of the meetings are held as just for the sake of a meeting. And then when we comes to fall through, we just fall flat on our face. And we don't. So let's just move on beyond that, and let this conference be something whereby we actually take some actions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. I think you have this very fine balance of, being being on the other side of the coin, being in the government, and now being an entrepreneur and evaluate the situation. But very valid points, ma'am. I think now is the time to stop cribbing and complaining. Just roll up the sleeves, join the hands together, and just work towards achieving a common goal to make sure that the region flourishes, tourism prospers, and the stakeholders get back on their feet. And I am sure if, and like you rightly said, government alone cannot do it. The private parties, the people, and the people community will have to be involved in it and drive it forward. And I'm sure it is possible and doable. You gave an example of EU. If they can do it, what is stopping us from doing it, a similar kind of a setup here? And I'm sure there are experts, Mr. Jutsi, Mr. Ravi, who can really get this thing moving and, get some.
Can I come in for a minute? Can I come in for a minute?
Yes, sir.
Can I come in for a minute?
Yes, yeah, Mr. Ravi.
Yeah, as Mr. Joshi talked about the potential or a very high potential of cruise tourism, I would like to share a slide on this actually. And can you see the slide actually?
No, we can't see the slide as yet. You'll have to do the share screen. Yes, we can. Yes, we can see. No, it's gone back.
Can you see the slide now?
Oh, we can't see the slide, Mr. Ravi.
Okay.
We can't.
Just a minute. Give me a minute.
Sure. I'll go back. In the meantime, I'll go to Mr. Javed for his closing remark.
Yeah.
And quickly, Mr. Javed, Mr. Ravi had a very interesting facts and figures in his presentation. He did mention that there almost about 22 lakh Bangladesh nationals who are coming into India. And again, that from India, we are only, you are only receiving 80,000. This is huge imbalance. I'm sure there is a lot of areas that the Bangladesh tourism can create and will have to work to make sure that this imbalance is not eliminated, but at least made as equal as possible. So your closing remarks, and how do you want to take this forward to remove this imbalance along with the regional tourism?
Thank you very much again. Mr. Actually, the last 2 hours was amazing speeches I have learned from the very learned people like Joshi, Vikram Pand, Mr. Vikram, Mr. Ravi Bankar, Mrs. Mariam. All are made very nice speeches. Seriously, I have learned many things from their speeches. Actually, the fact and figures which has discussed here, the time is ours. Really, the South Asia are emerging market for the tourist. Okay, so we have to work together. The suggestions we have received from Mariam to make a tourism bubble. Let us make a tourism bubble here with the countries neighboring, and no competition. It is a collaboration that we need. Actually, you are talking about the imbalance in our in India and Bangladesh. The figure I have, the outbound tourism in Bangladesh, almost 59%. 59% of our outbound tourists used to visit India. In spite of that, we received only 47% tourists from India and Bangladesh every year. It's before pandemic, and we have taken a lot of measures. I have already mentioned that visa regime is a very important factor here. That is the element, and really we are trying to ease the visa facilitation for the neighboring country, not the India only, the Nepal. That is all source market for Bangladesh. We have a border, we have a land border with the Nepal also through India, And a lot of people are coming from Nepal also every year. So again, I would like to mention here that the government cannot do many things. Okay, so the business people, they should come forward, and my suggestion would be the relation between the B2B, that the business to business has to be established very strongly to promote the tourism in our regions. So again, I like to suggest that B2B relation has to be strengthened among the region, and the like Africa, we should form a tourism bubble in our region.
Sure.
That is my
Sure.
last point, sir. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Javed. And I think we are completely out of time, Mr. Ravi. I'm sorry, but I'll have to give it a break to wind up this session. I would like to sincerely thank each and every panelist here for your contribution, your expert opinions, your thought process. It's very important for the stakeholders to understand that in spite of all the challenges, there is always a lot of solutions that are possible and available. It only needs that we open our minds and just sit together and ensure that there is a good synergy developed, which will help, which will be in the interest for everybody concerned, and it will be a win-win for all of the stakeholders. Students who are listening into this, remember these conversations. You will get an opportunity as you get into this industry after your graduation and your college. You could become a stakeholder, whether you're part of the government or you're a private party or whatever. But challenges will always be there. But if you have the right advice and the right source of information, you can overcome those challenges. And if your intent is very keen and good, tourism is one of the best industries that you could be a part of. Live your passion and go join this industry without any hesitation. Thank you very much to all the panelists, and I wish you all a very, very good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Full session, and I'm highly thankful to all our eminent panelists for their insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the viewers of this session. I'm sure that the takeaways of the session will enthuse confidence among students and young professionals during the current testing times towards the new normal. We have a surprise for you all attendees. Scan the QR code on your screens with your mobile phones and answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. You will get to win prizes and surprise gifts. And I shall see you in the next session.